There is a light that stays on late into the night in a great dark house on a hill above the city, a single warm window burning while the rest of the mansion sleeps. And behind that light there is an old man waiting up, as he has waited up 10,000 nights before, for a tired and wounded young man to come home. He is not the hero of the story, this old man, not the one in the cape and the cowl, not the one whose name is on the comics and the films, and yet if you look closely at the whole long tale, at the decades of it, you begin to suspect a quiet truth, which is that this old man, the butler, the servant, the one who waits up and binds the wounds and keeps the light burning, may be the most important person in the whole of the hero's life. Tonight, slowly and softly and in no hurry at all, we are going to wander gently through the story of that old man, Alfred, and through the question of why he mattered so much, why he was, in the end, the truest heart of the whole story. And we are going to do it calmly, because although the hero's world is a dark one, it is also, at its center, a story about love and loyalty and the people who keep us human, and there is nothing in any of it that can trouble you here, in the warm and ordinary quiet of your own room. So settle in now, and make yourself comfortable, and pull the blankets up, and if this kind of slow, gentle wander through the story of a beloved character is the sort of thing that helps you fall asleep, you might leave a gentle like before you drift away, and perhaps tell me down in the comments where in the world you are listening from tonight, and then just let all of it go, and let me tell you, softly and slowly, why the old butler was the most important person in the hero's whole life. Let us begin simply with who he is, this quiet figure at the edge of so many of the hero's adventures, so easy to overlook and yet so essential. He is the butler of the great manor, the servant who runs the household, cooks the meals, answers the door, keeps the vast old house in order, and in the earliest and most surface understanding of him that is all he is, the faithful family servant, a background figure, a bit of gentle color at the edge of the hero's dark world. But anyone who has followed the story for long knows that this surface understanding could not be more wrong, that the old butler is very far from a mere background figure, that he is in truth the beating heart of the whole enterprise. For the old butler is not only the hero's servant but his guardian, his confidant, his conscience, his field medic, his oldest friend, and, most importantly of all, the closest thing the hero has to a father, the man who raised him after his own parents were taken, who has stood beside him through every trial of his difficult life, who knows him more deeply than any other living soul. He is the one person who has been there for all of it, from the beginning to the end, the one constant in a life full of loss, the fixed point around which the whole turbulent story turns. And to understand the hero at all, truly, you must understand the old man who made him and kept him and loved him. He is, on the surface, the very picture of the proper English butler, dignified and correct, impeccably mannered, dressed always in his formal black, speaking in the measured, courteous tones of the perfect servant. And there is a comedy in the contrast between his prim propriety and the wild, dark world he moves through. This dignified old gentleman calmly serving tea amid the gadgets and the weapons of a war on crime. But the propriety is a surface, a manner, and beneath it there is a depth of feeling and a strength of character that the whole story rests upon, a love and a loyalty and a wisdom that make him, quietly, the most important figure in it. His importance is easy to miss, precisely because he does his work so quietly, so far from the spotlight, for he is not a fighter or a hero in the obvious sense, and his contributions are the invisible kind, the tending and the mending and the waiting up, the steady, unglamorous work of keeping a home and keeping a person whole. The hero fights the dramatic battles that everyone sees, and the old butler does the quiet work that no one notices. And yet it is the quiet work, in the end, that matters most. For without it, the hero could not fight at all, could not go on, could not remain the man he is. And so this is the question we are going to wander through tonight, gently and slowly. The question of the old butler's importance, of why this quiet servant, this background figure, this dignified old gentleman with his tea and his dry wit, should turn out to be, when you look closely, the most important person in the whole of the hero's life. It is a lovely question to drift through as sleep draws near, for it is really a question about love, about loyalty, about the people who hold us together, and there are few gentler things to carry down into the dark than that. The old butler was not there at the very beginning, for in the hero's earliest adventures he had no butler at all, and the character we now think of as inseparable from the hero did not appear until some years into the story. When he did arrive, in the early 1940s, in the midst of a great world war, he was a very different figure from the one we know, for the original butler was a portly, clean-shaven, rather bumbling fellow, a comic character, an amateur detective forever getting underfoot and fancying himself a great sleuth, a source of gentle comedy rather than the dignified pillar he would become. He even bore a different surname in those first days, and he was, in every way, a lighter and sillier figure than the beloved character he grew into. There is a lovely piece of history behind his transformation into the slim, moustached, dignified butler we know, and it comes from the movies, for at around the same time the character was appearing in the comics, the hero was also brought to the screen in an early film serial, and the actor cast as the butler there was a thin man with a neat moustache, elegant and refined, utterly unlike the portly comic figure of the comics. The film's version proved so much more fitting, so much more in keeping with the idea of the proper English butler, that the comics themselves changed to match it, sending their bumbling butler off to a health resort and bringing him back slim and moustached and transformed, so that the movies reshaped the comics and the butler we know was born. It is a charming and slightly strange origin, that the definitive look of the character came not from the comics that created him, but from a film adaptation that improved upon them, and it is one of those rare cases where the screen version flowed back into the source and permanently changed it. From that point on, the butler was the elegant, dignified figure we know, and over the years that followed, he was given a new and grander surname, a name suggesting worth and value, and he grew steadily from a comic side character into the deep and beloved figure at the heart of the mythology. The character deepened enormously across the decades, gaining a rich history and a real inner life, becoming less and less a mere servant, and more a father, a confidant, a moral center, until he had grown into one of the most important figures in the whole story. The writers who worked on the hero across the years came to understand what a treasure they had in the old butler, what depths he could carry, what emotional weight he could bear, and they gave him more and more to do, more history, more feeling, more importance, until he had become utterly essential. There is something fitting in the way the character grew, in the way a figure who began as a bit of comic relief slowly revealed himself to be the emotional heart of the whole enterprise. for it mirrors the way the old butler works within the story itself, quietly, in the background, his importance easy to overlook and yet growing, deepening, until you realize he has become the most important figure of all. He crept up on the mythology, the old butler, growing in importance almost unnoticed, until one day it became clear that the story could not exist without him, that he had become its very heart. And so the character has a history as long and as rich as the hero's own, a slow evolution from bumbling comic servant to dignified surrogate father, and to trace that evolution is to watch a beloved figure gradually come into focus, gradually reveal his true depth and his true importance. He was not there at the beginning, and he began as something small and silly, and he grew, across the long years, into the beating heart of the whole story. And that growth, that deepening, is itself a testament to how much the character came to matter, to how essential the old butler became. The deepest reason the old butler matters so much, the root of all the rest, is that he raised the hero, that when the boy's parents were murdered before his eyes, and he was left an orphan at 8 years old, it was the old butler who took him in, who cared for him, who became, in every way that matters, his father. The boy had lost everything in a single terrible night. His mother and his father both taken in an instant, and in the wreckage of that loss there was one person left standing beside him, one person who did not leave, one person who took the shattered child and gave him a home and a love and a reason to go on, and that person was the old butler. Imagine the weight of it, the task that fell to the old man in that moment, for he was suddenly responsible for a grieving, traumatized, orphaned boy, an heir to a great fortune and a great grief, a child whose whole world had been destroyed, and who carried within him a darkness and a pain that would have overwhelmed almost anyone. And the old butler took up that task without hesitation, without complaint, giving the rest of his life to the raising of the boy, becoming mother and father and guardian and friend all at once, pouring into the broken child all the love and the care and the steadiness he had, so that the boy might grow, despite everything, into a man. It could not have been easy, raising that particular boy, for he was no ordinary child but a grieving, driven, obsessive one, a boy consumed by his loss, bent from an early age on a strange and dangerous path, and the old butler had to watch the child he loved grow into something fierce and frightening, had to support a boy determined to throw himself into a war on crime, had to love and guide a child who was, in many ways, impossible to save from himself. And yet he did it, gave himself entirely to the raising of that difficult, driven, wounded boy, and in doing so, he became the foundation of everything the boy would become. There is a profound truth in the fact that the hero, for all his fixation on his dead parents, was actually raised by the old butler, that the man who truly shaped him, who was there for the whole of his growing up, who taught him and comforted him and disciplined him and loved him, was not his lost father, but his living guardian. The hero mourns his parents endlessly, builds his whole life around their memory, and yet the parent who actually raised him, who was actually there, day after day, year after year, was the old butler, and there is something both beautiful and quietly sad in that, in the way the true father is so often overlooked in favor of the lost one. For the old butler gave the boy the one thing that kept him from being entirely consumed by his grief, a steady and unconditional love, a home that remained a home even after the worst had happened, a constant presence that did not waver or leave. Whatever else the boy lost, he did not lose the old butler, and that single unbroken thread of love and care running through his whole life, from the night of the murder to the present day, is perhaps the most important thing about him, the thing that kept him human, the thing that let him survive his own grief and go on to become something more than a broken child. And the old butler did all of this not as a duty but as a love, for though he began as the family's servant, he came to love the boy as his own son, to care for him with a father's fierce and tender devotion, so that the relationship between them, whatever its formal terms, was in truth the relationship of a father and a son. The old man raised the boy, loved the boy, gave his life to the boy, and the boy, for all his difficulty and his darkness, loved the old man in return, so that at the heart of the whole dark mythology there lies this quiet and tender thing, a father and a son who are not related by blood and who love each other more than blood. It is this, above all, that makes the old butler the most important person in the hero's life, that he was, quite simply, the one who raised him, the one who was there, the one who loved him through everything, the father who remained when the true father was lost. Everything else the old butler is to the hero, the confidant and the conscience and the medic and the friend. All of it grows from this root, from the fact that he took in a broken orphan and raised him with love, and gave him, in the ruins of his childhood, a home and a father and a reason to go on. One of the most fascinating things about the old butler is that he was not always a butler, that before he came to serve the great family, he lived another life entirely. And the more the stories reveal of that hidden past, the more remarkable the old man becomes. For the quiet, dignified servant who pours the tea and keeps the house turns out, in various tellings, to have been a great many things before he took up the family's service, a man with a rich and often surprising history hidden behind his impeccable manners. In many of the stories he was, before anything else, an actor, a man of the stage who trained in the theatrical arts, and this past has real consequences for his later life, for it gave him a gift for disguise, for performance, for becoming other people, which serves him well in the hero's strange world, letting him play roles, adopt personas, go undercover when a case requires it. The dignified butler is, beneath the surface, a trained performer, and his whole manner, his perfect composure, his flawless propriety, is in a sense a kind of performance, a role he plays to perfection, the mask of the perfect servant worn over a much richer self. In many tellings he also has a military past, having served in the armed forces of his country, often in its most elite and secretive units, so that the gentle old butler was once a soldier, a trained fighter, a man who has seen combat and knows how to handle himself in a fight. This military past explains the steel beneath his gentleness, the way the old man can, when he must, be genuinely dangerous, can stand and fight, can face down threats that would send an ordinary servant fleeing, for he is no ordinary servant, but a trained and battle-hardened veteran hiding behind an apron. Closely tied to this is his training as a medic, for in many versions he served as a military doctor or field medic, learning to treat wounds under the worst conditions, and this skill becomes one of the most important things about him, one of his most vital contributions to the hero's war. The hands that pour the tea are also the hands that stitch the wounds, that set the broken bones, that pull the bullets, and the old butler's medical training is a large part of why the hero can survive his dangerous life at all, a field surgeon in a butler's uniform. There is even, in some tellings, a past in intelligence, in espionage, the old butler having served as a spy or an agent in his younger days, trained in the dark arts of the secret world, which adds yet another layer to the hidden depths beneath his composed surface. The gentle old servant, it turns out, may once have been a spy, a soldier, an actor, a surgeon, a man of many secret skills and many secret pasts, all of it hidden behind the perfect propriety of the butler, all of it quietly serving the hero's cause. What makes all of this so meaningful is the way it reveals the old butler as a man of genuine capability and genuine depth, not a mere servant, but a person of rich experience and formidable skill, who chose, out of love and loyalty, to give all of it to the service of the family and the raising of the boy. He could have done a great many things with his life, this capable and accomplished man, and he chose instead to be a butler, to serve, to raise a broken child, to keep a house and bind wounds and wait up late. And there is a real nobility in that choice, in a man of such capability devoting himself to such quiet service. And it deepens our sense of his importance, for it means that the hero was raised and supported not by a mere servant, but by a man of extraordinary depth and skill, a former soldier and surgeon and actor and perhaps spy, who brought all of that experience and all of that capability to bear on the task of caring for the boy and supporting his war. The old butler is far more than he appears, and the hero owes his survival and his very self, in no small part, to the hidden depths of the remarkable man who chose to spend his life in quiet service to him. Of all the practical ways the old butler serves the hero, none is more vital than his role as the healer, the one who patches the hero back together after his dangerous nights. And it is worth dwelling on this, for it is one of the truest measures of his importance. The hero lives a life of constant physical danger, taking terrible punishment night after night, coming home broken and bleeding, and there is one person who binds those wounds, who stitches the cuts and sets the bones and treats the injuries, one person who keeps the hero alive through all the damage he takes, and that person is the old butler. Night after night, year after year, the hero returns to the great house wounded, and night after night the old butler is there, calm and steady, cleaning the wounds, stitching the flesh, tending the injuries with the skill of the trained medic he is, so that the hero can rise the next night and do it all again. It is grim and unglamorous work, this endless mending of a body that is endlessly broken, and the old butler does it without complaint, his steady hands and his medical skill quite literally keeping the hero alive across all the long years of his dangerous war. There is a deep intimacy in this, in the old butler tending the hero's wounds, for it is a form of care as old as love itself, the binding of the beloved's hurts, and it happens over and over, in the quiet of the cave, the old man patiently mending the young one, an act of love repeated 10,000 times across the decades. The hero trusts the old butler with his broken body as he trusts no one else, lies still under his careful hands, lets the old man tend him, and there is a tenderness in it, a father caring for a wounded son, that is among the most moving things in the whole mythology. And it is a service of staggering importance, for without it, the hero would simply die, would bleed out on some rooftop, or succumb to some untreated wound, unable to sustain his dangerous life without the constant care of his healer. The old butler's medical skill is, quite literally, what keeps the hero alive. night after night. And in this most basic and vital sense, the hero owes his very survival to the old man, to the steady hands that mend him, to the patient care that sends him back out whole into the dark. There is something poignant, too, in the old butler's position as the one who must always mend the hero's wounds, for it means he must watch, again and again, the terrible damage the hero takes, must see the beloved boy he raised come home broken and bleeding, must bind wound after wound, knowing that tomorrow there will be more. It is a hard thing to be the one who patches up someone you love as they throw themselves again and again into danger, and the old butler bears it with a quiet steadiness, tending the wounds he wishes he did not have to tend, keeping alive a boy he wishes did not court death so. And this captures something essential about the old butler's whole relationship to the hero, the way his love expresses itself in service, in the quiet, practical work of keeping the hero alive and whole, the mending and the tending and the care. He does not fight the battles, but he keeps alive the one who does. He does not wear the cape, but he stitches the wounds it cannot prevent. And in this quiet, essential, endless work of healing, the old butler proves himself, once again, indispensable, the one who keeps the hero alive so that the hero can go on. Beyond mending the hero's body, the old butler tends something even more important, the hero's soul, for he is the moral center of the whole enterprise, the conscience, the voice of reason and of decency that keeps the hero from losing himself entirely to his dark war. The hero walks always along a dangerous edge, a driven and obsessive man consumed by his mission, forever in danger of going too far, of becoming as ruthless as the criminals he fights, of losing his humanity to his crusade, and the one who stands beside him, again and again, pulling him back from that edge, is the old butler. For the old butler is not afraid to tell the hero hard truths, to challenge him, to question his choices, to speak the words the hero does not want to hear. And this willingness to speak truth to the man he serves is one of his most important qualities. Everyone else in the hero's life either fears him or follows him, but the old butler, who has known him since he was a child, who changed his nappies and dried his tears, speaks to him as an equal, as a father to a son, unafraid to tell him when he is wrong, when he has gone too far, when he is in danger of losing himself. Again and again across the stories, it is the old butler who holds up the mirror, who reminds the hero of his own principles, who questions the toll the mission is taking, who speaks the voice of conscience and of care. When the hero grows too cold, too hard, too consumed, it is the old butler who calls him back to his humanity. When the hero risks too much, sacrifices too much, the old butler tells him so. When the hero is in danger of forgetting who he is beneath the mask, the old butler remembers for him and reminds him. This role as the conscience is perhaps the old butler's most important function of all, more important even than the mending of wounds, for it is what keeps the hero human, what keeps him from becoming the very darkness he fights. A man on the hero's path without such a voice might easily slide into cruelty, into ruthlessness, into becoming a monster, and it is the old butler, more than anyone, who holds the hero back from that fate, who keeps him decent, who keeps him good, who keeps him a hero rather than a villain. There is real courage in this role, for it is not easy to challenge the hero, to speak hard truths to a powerful and driven and often frightening man, and the old butler does it not out of any disrespect, but out of the deepest love, the love that is willing to risk the beloved's anger in order to save him from himself. He tells the hero what the hero needs to hear, rather than what he wants to hear, and this, the willingness to speak the difficult truth out of love, is one of the truest marks of his devotion and one of his most vital gifts. And the hero, for all his stubbornness, listens, for he knows that the old butler speaks from love, that the old man wants only his good, that the hard truths come from the one person who has always been on his side, and so the old butler's voice reaches him where no other could. The conscience only works because of the love beneath it, because the hero knows the old butler would never steer him wrong, and so the old man's counsel, his questions, his hard truths, land with a weight that no one else's could, and keep the hero, again and again, on the right side of the line. It is a role of immense importance, this keeping of the hero's soul, this tending of his conscience, and it is one that only the old butler could fill, for only he has the standing, the history, the love, to speak such truths and be heard. He is the guardian not only of the hero's body, but of his goodness, the one who keeps him human, and in this quiet, essential work he proves himself, once again, the most important person in the hero's life, the keeper of his very soul. Amid all the darkness of the hero's world, the old butler brings something precious and rare, a gift for gentle humor, a dry and understated wit that is one of the most beloved things about him. He is famous for his sardonic little remarks, his understated observations, his perfectly timed dry comments delivered in the measured tones of the proper English servant, and this wit is a genuine light in the darkness, a bit of warmth and humanity amid the grimness, a reminder that even in the hero's bleak world there is still room for a gentle joke. His humour is of a particular kind, quiet and dry and understated, never loud or slapstick, but delivered with perfect composure, a raised eyebrow, a subtle turn of phrase, a gently ironic observation that undercuts the drama and lets a little air into the darkness. He can, with a single dry remark, puncture the hero's brooding self-seriousness, bring a moment of lightness to the grimmest situation, remind everyone, including the hero, that life is not all darkness and war, that there is still room for wit and warmth and the small human pleasures. This humour is more important than it might seem, for it is a large part of how the old butler keeps the hero human, keeps him from sinking entirely into the grim obsession of his mission. The hero is a creature of relentless seriousness, forever brooding, forever consumed by his dark purpose, and the old butler's gentle wit is a constant, quiet corrective, a reminder not to take everything so seriously, a bit of lightness that keeps the hero from being wholly swallowed by his own darkness. The dry jokes are, in their way, a form of care, a way of keeping the hero connected to the ordinary human warmth that his mission would otherwise crowd out. And beneath the dry wit, there is a deep and genuine warmth, a tenderness that the old butler mostly keeps hidden behind his composure, but that shines through in the quiet moments, in the care he takes, in the love that underlies his every action. He is not a demonstrative man, the old butler, not given to grand displays of feeling, but his love for the hero runs deep and true, expressed in 1,000 quiet ways, in the meals prepared and the wounds tended and the light left burning and the hard truth spoken, all of it flowing from a warmth that is all the more moving for being so quietly held. There is a particular beauty in the combination of the dry wit and the deep warmth. in the way the old butler wraps his tenderness in humor, expresses his love through gentle jokes and quiet care rather than grand declarations. For it is a very real and very human way of loving, the way of the reserved and dignified man who feels deeply but shows it lightly. His love is in the small things, in the tea and the wit and the waiting up, and it is no less deep for being so quietly expressed, no less powerful for being wrapped in a dry remark. This warmth and this wit make the old butler not only important, but beloved, not only essential, but genuinely dear, a character people love not for what he does, but for who he is, for the gentle humor and the deep kindness that shine through everything. He is the warm heart of a cold world, the bit of light in the darkness, the one who brings humor and tenderness to the grimmest of stories. And it is this warmth, as much as anything, that makes him so treasured, so beloved, so important, the gentle soul at the heart of the hero's dark life. There is a deep and quiet tragedy at the heart of the old butler's relationship with the hero, and it is this, that he does not truly want the hero to be the hero at all, that the mission the hero has given his life to is a mission the old butler wishes, with all his heart, that the boy had never taken up. For the old butler raised the boy hoping he would find happiness, would heal from his grief, would grow into a whole and contented man with a family and a life, and instead he had to watch the boy pour all of that possibility into a dangerous and endless war, and it breaks the old man's heart. The old butler supports the hero's mission, faithfully and completely, for he loves the hero and will not abandon him, and yet he does so with a heavy heart, for he can see what the mission costs, can see the toll it takes on the boy he loves, can see the happiness it forecloses, the life it consumes. He wishes, more than anything, that the hero would give it up, would hang up the cape, would step out of the darkness and into an ordinary life of love and peace. And this wish, this longing for the hero's happiness, is one of the most poignant things about the old butler. And so he occupies a heartbreaking position, the old butler, supporting with all his skill a mission he wishes did not exist, tending the wounds of a war he wishes the hero had never begun, waiting up night after night for a boy he wishes were safe at home. He gives everything to the hero's cause, even as he grieves it, keeps the hero alive to fight a war he wishes the hero would abandon, and there is a terrible tenderness in that, in a love so complete that it serves even the thing it wishes were not so. There are moments in the stories when the old butler's grief over the mission breaks through, when he speaks of his wish for the hero's happiness, when he pleads with the hero to consider a different life, when the depth of his sorrow over the path the boy has chosen becomes visible. These are among the most moving moments in the whole mythology. The old man's quiet heartbreak over the war his beloved boy has given his life to, his longing for a happiness the hero will not allow himself, and they reveal the depth of the old butler's love, the love that wants only the beloved's good. For what the old butler wants for the hero is not victory in his war, but simply happiness, not the defeat of crime, but the healing of the boy. And this is a profound and important thing, for it means that the old butler loves the hero not as a symbol or a crusader, but as a person, as the boy he raised, whose happiness matters to him more than any mission. He is perhaps the only person who sees the hero this way, who cares more for the man than the mission, who wishes the hero would simply be well and happy, and this makes his love the truest and most selfless of all. And there is something quietly heroic in the way the old butler serves the mission despite wishing it away, in the way he gives everything to a cause he grieves, out of love for the person waging it. He does not withhold his support to try to force the hero off his path. He gives it fully, freely, even knowing the cost, because he loves the hero and will stand beside him whatever he chooses. And this, the love that supports even what it wishes were otherwise, is one of the deepest and most moving expressions of his devotion. It is this too that makes him so important, for in his grief over the mission, he holds always before the hero the possibility of another life, the reminder that there could be happiness, that the war need not be everything, that the boy is loved for himself and not only for his crusade. He is the keeper of the hero's happiness, the one who never stops wishing him well, never stops hoping he might heal, and in this quiet, sorrowful, loving vigil he proves himself, once again, the most important person in the hero's life. The old butler is, in a very real sense, the hero's last tie to an ordinary human life, the one thing that keeps the great dark house a home rather than merely a base of operations, and this is one of his most important and most easily overlooked roles. For the hero could so easily have let his whole life become nothing but the mission, could have turned the manor into a cold fortress and himself into a machine of war. And the one thing that prevents this, that keeps a thread of ordinary warmth and ordinary life running through it all, is the presence of the old butler. He keeps the house a home. The old butler cooks the meals and lays the table and maintains the rooms, insists on the small, ordinary rituals of domestic life amid all the darkness, so that even a creature of the night must sometimes sit down to a proper dinner, must return to a warm and cared-for home, must be, for a few hours, an ordinary man in an ordinary house. These small domestic rituals, the meals and the tea and the tending of the home, are more important than they seem, for they keep the hero tethered to the ordinary human world, keep him from disappearing entirely into the darkness. Through the old butler, the hero remains connected to the ordinary textures of life, to home and food and warmth and human care, to the small comforts that make a life rather than merely a mission. The old butler insists on these things, gently but firmly, refusing to let the hero abandon them entirely, and in doing so, he keeps alive within the hero the ordinary human being beneath the mask, the man who still needs to eat and rest and be cared for, the person the mission would otherwise consume. The great house itself, kept warm and lived in by the old butler's care, becomes a sanctuary, a place of refuge from the darkness outside, a home to return to, and it is the old butler who makes it so, who keeps it from being a cold and empty pile of stone. His presence fills the house with life and warmth, with the smell of cooking and the sound of a kettle and the small stir of an occupied home, and it is this, the warmth of a kept home, that gives the hero something to come back to, a refuge, a place where he can, for a while, set down his burden and simply be. And there is the old butler's own presence, the simple fact of his being there, a warm and constant human presence in a life that might otherwise be terribly solitary, so that the hero, for all his loneliness, is never entirely alone, always has the old butler waiting for him, always has someone to come home to. This companionship, this steady presence, is one of the old butler's most vital gifts, for the hero's life is a lonely one, and the old butler is the one who keeps him from utter solitude, the one who is always there, the one who makes the great empty house feel, despite everything, like a home. It is a quiet and easily overlooked importance, this keeping of the home and the ordinary life, but it is a profound one, for it is what keeps the hero human, what keeps a thread of ordinary warmth running through his dark existence, what gives him something to return to and someone to return to. Without the old butler, the manor would be a cold fortress and the hero a lonely machine of war. And it is the old man, with his meals and his tea and his warm presence, who keeps it all human, who keeps the home a home and the hero a man. The old butler did not only raise the hero, for across the long years the hero gathered around him a whole family of young people, the children he took in and trained to fight at his side, and the old butler became a grandfather to them all, extending his love and his care to each of them in turn. As the hero brought home one young ward after another, orphans and lost children drawn into his war, it was the old butler who welcomed them, who cared for them, who became for each of them the same warm and steady presence he had been for the hero himself, a whole second generation raised in the old man's gentle care. He became a grandfather to these young heroes, the old butler, loving them and worrying over them and tending their wounds just as he had the heroes, offering each of them the warmth and the wisdom and the dry wit that had helped raise the hero. And for these young people, many of whom had lost their own families, the old butler was a precious thing, a source of unconditional love and steady care in the dangerous world they had entered, a grandfather who welcomed them home and bound their wounds and told them the truth and loved them without reservation. His relationships with each of the young heroes are among the most touching in the whole mythology, for he brought to each of them his own particular care, understood each of them, loved each of them for who they were, and served for each of them as the warm heart of the strange family they had joined. The old butler held the whole family together, in a sense, was the warm center around which the whole community of heroes gathered, the grandfather whose love bound them all, and this role, this extension of his fatherly care to a whole family, only deepened his importance. There is something beautiful in the way the old butler's love multiplied across the years, in the way the care he had given the hero he gave also to each of the hero's wards, so that a whole family of young heroes grew up, in part, under his gentle hand. He had love enough for all of them. The old butler welcomed each new member of the family with the same warmth, and became, for the whole strange found family of heroes, the beloved grandfather at its heart, the one who loved them all. And in caring for the young heroes, the old butler often served too as a bridge between them and the hero, softening the hero's harshness, mediating the conflicts, reminding the hero of the young one's feelings and the young ones of the hero's love. He understood them all, the old butler, and he helped them understand one another, helped hold the difficult family together through its many conflicts and estrangements, the patient, loving center that kept the whole thing from flying apart. This role as the grandfather of the whole family is one more measure of the old butler's importance, for he was essential not only to the hero, but to the whole community of heroes that gathered around him, the warm heart that held them all together, the beloved elder whose love bound the family. And it reveals, once again, the depth of his capacity for love, the way his care extended to all who needed it, the way he became a father and a grandfather to a whole family of the lost and the wounded, loving them all, holding them all, essential to them all. Above all the old butler's qualities stands his loyalty, a loyalty so deep and so unwavering that it has become one of the defining features of the character, a devotion that never falters across all the long years and all the trials of the hero's difficult life. Whatever happens, however dark things become, however much the hero pushes him away, or tests his patience, or endangers his life, the old butler remains, faithful and steady, at the hero's side, a constant that never wavers, a loyalty that never breaks. This loyalty has been tested countless times across the stories, for the hero is not an easy man to serve, driven and obsessive and often cold, prone to pushing away those who love him, to endangering himself and others, to demanding sacrifices that would drive away any lesser servant. And yet the old butler remains, through all of it, forgiving the hero's coldness, enduring his difficulty, standing by him through every trial, his loyalty proof against every test, his devotion unshaken by anything the hero does. There is a kind of heroism in this steadfastness, in the old butler's unwavering faithfulness, for it is not easy to remain so loyal to so difficult a man across so many years and so many trials, and the old butler does it not out of mere duty, but out of love, a love that endures everything, forgives everything, remains through everything. His loyalty is a form of love, the deepest form, the love that stays, that does not abandon, that remains faithful through every hardship, and it is one of the most moving things about him. And his loyalty has been proven again and again in sacrifice, for the old butler has risked everything for the hero, has endured danger and injury and hardship, has given up his own safety and his own comfort and his own happiness, all in the service of the hero and his cause. He has faced down threats, endured captures and injuries, put himself in harm's way, all without hesitation, for the hero's sake, and this willingness to sacrifice, to risk everything, is the ultimate proof of his devotion, the loyalty that holds nothing back. The old butler has given his whole life to the hero, when you consider it, has poured all of his years and all of his skill and all of his love into the service of one family and one man, has sacrificed whatever other life he might have had, whatever other happiness, to remain faithfully at the hero's side. It is a whole life given in loyalty and love, a lifetime of quiet sacrifice, and there is something profoundly moving in it, in a man who gave everything, asked nothing, and remained faithful to the end. This unwavering loyalty is perhaps the truest measure of the old butler's importance and the old butler's love, for it is the constant that the hero can always rely on, the one thing in his turbulent life that never changes, never fails, never abandons him. In a life full of loss and betrayal and change, the old butler is the fixed point, the loyalty that endures, the love that remains. And this constancy, this unshakable faithfulness, is one of the greatest gifts he gives the hero, the gift of a love that will never leave. And there is a deep comfort in that, in the thought of a loyalty so complete, a devotion so unwavering, a love so faithful, for it speaks to something we all long for, the longing to be loved like that, faithfully, constantly, through everything, the longing for the one who will always remain. The old butler is that one for the hero, the faithful constant, the unwavering love, and it is a beautiful thing to contemplate, this loyalty that never fails, this devotion that endures to the end, the truest heart of the whole long story. The old butler has been brought to the screen many times across the years, by many fine actors, and it is worth wandering gently through some of them, for the various screen versions have each captured something of the character, and together they have made the old butler beloved far beyond the comics. There was the elegant actor of the old television version, dignified and warm, who helped fix the character in the public mind, and there was the gentle, kindly actor of an earlier era of films, who brought a real tenderness to the role across several films, a beloved and grandfatherly presence. But for many people, the definitive screen version came from a celebrated British actor, a legend of the cinema, who played the old butler in an acclaimed trilogy of films and brought to the role a depth and a warmth and a gravitas that made him the emotional heart of those films. His old butler was wise and loving and quietly heartbroken, a father to the hero in the fullest sense, and he was given some of the most moving moments in all of the hero's cinema, speeches of such feeling that they have become beloved far beyond the films themselves, moments in which the old butler's love and grief for the hero were laid bare. There was one moment in particular, near the end of that trilogy, in which the old butler confessed a dream he had cherished, a dream of one day seeing the hero happy and safe and free of his burden, of glimpsing him across a crowded cafe in some far-off city, living an ordinary contented life at last, and exchanging with him a single silent nod of understanding. It is one of the most beloved moments in all of the hero's cinema, this confession of the old butler's deepest wish, his longing to see the boy he loves finally happy, and it captured, more powerfully than almost anything, the depth of the old butler's love and the sorrow of his long vigil. Other fine actors have taken up the role since, bringing their own qualities to it, some emphasizing the old butler's steel and his capability, his past as a soldier and an agent, others his warmth and his wit, each new version finding something fresh in the rich character while honoring his essential nature. And the character has grown so beloved, so recognized as essential to the mythology, that he was eventually given a whole story of his own, a series exploring his younger days, his life before he came to serve the family, his adventures as a young man, a recognition of just how deeply people had come to love the old butler. That the old butler should be given his own story, his own series, his own place in the spotlight, is a remarkable testament to his importance, for it is rare for a supporting character, a butler, a servant, to be judged worthy of his own tale, and it speaks to how completely the old butler had grown beyond his supporting role into a beloved figure in his own right. People wanted to know his story, his past, the man he was before he came to the manor, and this hunger to know him better is itself a measure of how deeply he had come to matter. Across all these screen versions, the various faces of the old butler, a consistent picture emerges of a dignified and loving man, wise and warm and faithful, the beating heart of the hero's world, and each new actor who takes up the role adds to the beloved whole, deepening the character, enriching him, keeping him alive for each new generation. The old butler on screen has become one of the most beloved supporting characters in all of film, and the affection people feel for him, the way they treasure his moments and mourn his losses, is a testament to how completely the character captures the heart. And there is something fitting in the way the old butler has been played by such fine and dignified actors, men of real gravitas and real warmth, for the role demands exactly those qualities, the dignity and the depth and the tenderness, and the great actors who have taken it up have understood that they were playing not a mere servant, but the emotional heart of the whole story, and have brought to it all the depth and feeling it deserves. The old butler on screen is a treasure, and the actors who have played him have given the world some of its most beloved portraits of quiet devotion. The clearest proof of the old butler's importance came, in the end, in the most painful way possible, in his death, for the stories eventually did the unthinkable and took him from the hero, killed by one of the hero's own enemies, and the devastation of that loss revealed, more powerfully than anything, just how essential the old butler had been. It was a shocking and controversial thing, the death of the old butler, for he had been a fixture of the mythology for so long, a constant, a safe harbor, that his loss struck fans and hero alike with the force of a genuine bereavement. The manner of his death made it all the more terrible, for he was killed as a deliberate blow against the hero, taken by an enemy who understood exactly what the old butler meant to him, who knew that to destroy the old butler was to strike at the very heart of the hero, to take from him the one person he could least bear to lose. And it worked, for the loss of the old butler devastated the hero as no physical wound ever could, striking at his very soul, taking from him the father who had raised him, the constant who had always been there, the love that had never wavered. The grief of the hero at the loss of the old butler is among the most powerful and most painful things in all of the mythology, for it laid bare, in the rawest possible way, just how much the old butler had meant to him, just how much he had depended on the old man's love and care and presence. All the years of quiet service, all the meals and the mended wounds and the hard truths and the waiting up, all of it was suddenly, unbearably absent, and the hero was left to face the enormity of what he had lost, the father he had never quite acknowledged as a father until he was gone. There is a terrible clarity in loss, the way it reveals the true importance of what has been taken, and the death of the old butler revealed, with awful clarity, that he had been the most important person in the hero's life all along, the foundation of everything, the love that had held the hero together. Only in his absence could the full weight of his presence be felt. Only in the silence of the great house with the light in the window gone out could the hero and the audience truly grasp how much the old butler had been, how essential, how irreplaceable, how deeply and completely loved. The great house, without the old butler, became a different place, cold and empty, and haunted by his absence, the meals uncooked, the wounds untended, the light in the window dark, and this emptiness was itself a kind of eulogy, a measure of everything the old butler had been. For it was he who had made the house a home, he who had kept the hero human, he who had been the warm heart of it all, and with him gone the whole thing felt hollow, bereft, the life gone out of it, and this hollowness spoke, more loudly than any words, of how much he had mattered. And the hero's grief did not fade, for the loss of the old butler was not the kind of loss one recovers from, but a permanent absence, a wound that would not heal, a grief that would remain, and in this, the death of the old butler took its place beside the death of the hero's parents as one of the founding losses of his life. He had lost his parents as a child, and now he lost the man who had raised him, the second father, and the two losses together defined him, the boy who lost his parents and then lost the one who took him in, twice bereaved, twice broken by the loss of a father. There is a deep sorrow in the death of the old butler, and yet there is also, in it, the ultimate proof of his importance. For a loss so devastating could only come from a presence so essential, and the depth of the grief measures the depth of the love. The old butler mattered so much that his loss could break the hero as nothing else could. And in that terrible truth lies the answer to our whole question. The proof that the old butler was, indeed, the most important person in the hero's life. The one whose loss was the most unbearable of all. We have spoken much of what the old butler meant to the hero, but the love ran both ways, and it is worth dwelling on what the hero meant to the old butler, for the relationship was not one of mere service, but of mutual and profound love. For the old butler, the hero was not merely a master to be served, but a son to be loved, the child he had raised, the boy he had watched grow, the person who had become, over the long years, the center of his whole life and the object of his deepest devotion. The old butler had no children of his own, in most tellings, and the hero became his child, the one he poured his fatherly love into, the one who gave his life its meaning. There is something moving in the thought that the old butler, who gave so much to the hero, received in return a love that was the great treasure of his life. For the hero, beneath his darkness and his difficulty, loved the old butler deeply, truly, as a son loves a father. The hero was not a demonstrative man, not given to expressions of feeling, and yet his love for the old butler was real and profound, expressed in the trust he placed in him, in the way he relied on him, in the rare moments of tenderness that broke through his hard exterior, in the devastation of his grief when the old man was gone. The relationship between them, when you consider it fully, was one of the great love stories of the mythology. Not a romance, but a love no less deep. The love of a father and a son who were not related by blood, who had chosen each other, who had grown together across a lifetime, who meant everything to each other. The old butler gave the hero a father's love, and the hero gave the old butler a son's love, and between them they built a bond that was the truest and most enduring relationship in either of their lives. For the old butler, raising the hero was surely the great work of his life, the thing that gave it meaning and purpose, the accomplishment he was proudest of, and the hero was surely his greatest treasure, the child he loved beyond all else. Whatever else the old butler was, soldier or actor or surgeon or spy, whatever other lives he might have led, the raising of the hero was the thing he chose above all, the love that defined him. And there is a beauty in that, in a man who found his life's meaning in the loving and raising of a broken child. And there is a mutuality in their bond that makes it all the more precious, for it was not a one-sided devotion, the old butler serving and the hero merely receiving, but a genuine love flowing in both directions, each caring deeply for the other, each essential to the other, each the other's family. The old butler needed the hero as much as the hero needed the old butler, for the hero gave his life meaning and love and family, and this mutuality, this two-way love, is what made the bond so deep and so true. To understand the old butler's importance, then, is also to understand that the importance ran both ways, that the hero was as important to the old butler as the old butler was to the hero, that they were, quite simply, family, the most important people in each other's lives. It was a love that gave meaning to both their lives, a bond that sustained them both, and it is this mutual, profound, lifelong love, more than any single act of service, that lies at the very heart of the whole story, the love between the father who was not a father and the son who was not a son. One way to measure the old butler's importance is to consider what the hero becomes without him, for the stories that have taken the old butler away, whether through death or absence or estrangement, reveals starkly how much the hero depends on him, how much darker and colder and more lost the hero becomes when the old man is not there. Without the old butler's steadying presence, his conscience, his warmth, his care, the hero drifts toward the very darkness the old man had always held him back from, becoming harder, more isolated, more consumed by his mission, more in danger of losing himself entirely. For the old butler is the tether, the thing that keeps the hero connected to his humanity, and when that tether is cut, the hero begins to drift, to sink deeper into the cold and the dark, to lose the warmth and the balance that the old man provided. The stories that explore this are among the most chilling in the mythology, showing a hero unmoored, a hero without his conscience, a hero sliding toward the abyss, and they make plain, by his absence, exactly what the old butler provided, exactly how essential he was to keeping the hero whole. There is a terrible loneliness to the hero without the old butler, for the old man was his one constant companion, his one true confidant, the one who was always there, and without him, the hero is truly alone, isolated in his great empty house, with no one to come home to, no one to tell the truth, no one to care for him. The hero has other allies, other loved ones, but none of them fill the place of the old butler. None of them can be to him what the old man was, and his absence leaves a loneliness that nothing else can touch. And there is a hardening too, for it was the old butler's warmth and wit and conscience that kept the hero from becoming entirely cold, and without him, the hero grows harder, grimmer, more ruthless, the human warmth draining out of him, the darkness closing in. The old butler was the light in the hero's darkness, and without that light the darkness grows, and the hero becomes more and more the grim machine of war that the old man had always fought to keep him from becoming, the very thing the old butler's love had held at bay. These glimpses of the hero without the old butler are, in a sense, the strongest argument of all for the old man's importance, for they show us the counterfactual, the hero as he would have been without the old butler's love and care, and it is a darker, colder, lonelier, more broken figure than the hero we know. The old butler, it turns out, was not a mere supporting presence, but the very thing that kept the hero from that darker fate, the love and the warmth and the conscience that made him the hero he is, rather than the monster he might have become. It is a sobering thing to contemplate, the hero without the old butler, and it drives home, more powerfully than any praise, just how essential the old man was, just how much the hero owes to him, just how much of what is good in the hero flows from the old butler's love. Remove the old butler, and the hero falls. Keep him, and the hero stands. And in that simple truth lies the whole answer to our question, the proof that the old butler was, indeed, the most important person in the hero's life, the one without whom the hero could not be the hero at all. And there is a poignancy in this, in the thought that so much of the hero's goodness, his humanity, his very survival, rested on the quiet, unglamorous work of one old man, on the meals and the mended wounds, and the hard truths, and the steady love. The hero fights his dramatic battles, and wins his famous victories, and beneath it all, unseen, unsung, there is the old butler, holding him together, keeping him human, without whom none of it would be possible, the quiet foundation on which the whole towering figure of the hero stands. There is a deeper meaning in the old butler, beyond his role in the hero's story, for he represents something universal and important, the quiet, unsung caregiver, the one who tends and mends and supports from the background, whose work is invisible but essential, who holds others together while remaining unseen. In a world that celebrates the heroes, the fighters, the ones in the spotlight, the old butler stands for all the quiet ones behind them, the parents and the nurses and the caregivers, the ones who do the unglamorous work of keeping others whole, and whose importance is so easily overlooked. The old butler's whole role is a celebration of this kind of quiet, essential care, the care that does not fight the dramatic battles but makes them possible, that does not wear the cape but keeps the one who does alive and human and able to go on. It is the care of the caregiver, the support of the supporter, the love of the one who gives without being seen, and the old butler embodies it perfectly, the unsung hero behind the hero, the quiet foundation on which the whole visible drama rests. There is a real dignity in this, and the stories, at their best, understand it. Understand that the old butler's quiet work is no less heroic than the hero's loud battles, that the tending and the mending and the waiting up are their own kind of heroism, the heroism of care, of love, of quiet, faithful service. The old butler never receives the glory, never wears the cape, never wins the famous victories, and yet his contribution is no less essential, and there is a nobility in his willingness to do the unseen work, to serve without recognition, to love without reward. This is part of why the old butler resonates so deeply with people, why he is so beloved, for we recognize in him the quiet caregivers in our own lives, the ones who held us together, who did the unglamorous work of loving and supporting us, who asked no recognition and received little, and whose importance we perhaps only fully understood when they were gone. The old butler stands for all of them, for the unsung ones, the caregivers, the quiet, loving presences who make everything else possible, and in honoring him, we honor them. And there is a gentle lesson in the old butler, a reminder to notice and to value the quiet caregivers, to recognize that the ones in the background, the ones who tend and support and love without being seen, are often the most important of all, the foundation on which everything else rests. The hero could not exist without the old butler, and so many of us could not be who we are without the quiet ones who cared for us. And the old butler reminds us to see them, to value them, to understand how much we owe to the unsung love that held us together. It is a beautiful thing that a dark superhero mythology should contain, at its heart, this quiet celebration of the unsung caregiver, this recognition that the most important person in the hero's life is not another fighter, but the gentle old man who cared for him, and it lends the whole mythology a warmth and a wisdom beyond its darkness. The old butler is the heart of it, the reminder that love and care and quiet, faithful service are the truest heroism of all, and in him the mythology honors something deeply true and deeply human. And so the old butler matters not only within the story but beyond it, as a symbol of the quiet care that holds the world together, the unsung love that makes everything else possible. And this larger meaning is part of his importance too, part of why he is so beloved and so essential. He is the caregiver, the quiet, loving presence behind the hero, and in celebrating him, the mythology celebrates all such presences, all the unsung ones who hold us together, and there are few more beautiful or more important things for a story to honor than that. So much of the old butler's love is expressed through small rituals, the quiet ceremonies of daily care, and it is worth dwelling on them, for they are the texture of his devotion, the everyday shape of his love. There is the tea above all, the endless cups of tea the old butler brings, appearing at the right moment with a steaming cup, a small gesture repeated 10,000 times across the years, and yet each one an act of care, a way of saying without words that he is there, that he is thinking of the hero, that he loves him. The tea is a small thing and an enormous thing at once, the humble vehicle of a great and quiet love. There are the meals, prepared with care and served with dignity. The old butler insisting that even a creature of the night must sometimes sit down to a proper dinner, must be nourished and cared for, and these meals too are acts of love. The old man feeding the hero as a parent feeds a child, keeping him nourished, keeping him alive, keeping alive too the ordinary human ritual of the shared table. There is the keeping of the house, the dusting and the polishing and the ordering, the old butler maintaining the great manner with a care that is really a form of devotion, tending the home as one tends a beloved thing. There are the clothes laid out, the small comforts provided, the countless tiny services that make up the old butler's days, each one small and unremarkable in itself, and yet all of them together adding up to a life given in loving service, a devotion expressed not in grand gestures, but in 1,000 small acts of care. This is how the old butler loves, in the small things, in the daily rituals, in the endless quiet acts of tending and providing, and there is a beauty in it, in a love so woven into the fabric of ordinary life that it becomes invisible, taken for granted, and yet is present in every small service. There is a wisdom in the old butler's insistence on these rituals too, for he understands that they matter, that the small ceremonies of daily life are what keep a person human, what keep a life, and he insists on them precisely because he knows the hero needs them, needs the tea and the meals and the ordinary care to stay tethered to his own humanity. The rituals are not mere habit, but a deliberate keeping alive of the ordinary human world within the hero's extraordinary life, a gentle insistence that even a hero must eat and rest and be cared for. And there is a comfort in these rituals, both for the hero and for us who watch, the comfort of the familiar, the reassuring rhythm of daily care, the sense of a life held together by small, steady acts of love. The old butler's tea and meals and quiet services are the reassuring constant of the hero's turbulent life, the steady rhythm beneath the chaos, and there is a deep comfort in that, in the small rituals of love, repeated day after day, the quiet ceremonies of a devotion that never fails. It is fitting, somehow, that so much of the old butler's love should be expressed through tea, that humble and homely drink, for it captures the essence of him, the way his great and profound love expresses itself through small and homely acts, the way his devotion is woven into the ordinary textures of daily life. The tea is the old butler in miniature, the small, humble vehicle of a vast and quiet love, and to think of him is to think of that steaming cup appearing at the right moment, the small gesture that says everything, the quiet ceremony of a love that never wavers. And there is something deeply soothing in these small rituals as sleep draws near, in the thought of the old butler moving quietly through the great house, bringing the tea, laying the table, keeping the home, the gentle rhythm of daily care that held the whole story together. It is a peaceful image, the old man at his quiet work, the small ceremonies of his love, and it is a gentle thing to carry towards sleep, the tea and the warmth and the quiet care, the small rituals of a great and faithful love. The old butler occupies a unique place in the hero's life, as the keeper of both his worlds, the only one who knows him fully, both the public man and the masked crusader, and who helps him maintain the difficult double life he leads. For the hero must be two people at once, the wealthy public figure the world sees, and the secret warrior of the night, and the strain of that double life is enormous. The constant deception, the endless maintaining of the mask, and the old butler is the one person who shares the whole truth, who knows both selves, who helps hold the two together. He helps maintain the public persona, the old butler, playing his part in the elaborate deception, keeping up the appearances that hide the hero's true nature, managing the household and the public face, and the whole apparatus of the secret life. When the hero must play the shallow public figure, it is the old butler who supports the performance. When the hero must slip away to his secret work, it is the old butler who covers for him, who manages the practical details, who keeps the double life running. He is the keeper of the secret, the one who makes the deception possible. And because he knows both selves, the old butler is the one place where the hero can be whole, can drop both masks, can be neither the public performance nor the fearsome crusader, but simply himself, the man beneath it all. With everyone else, the hero must be one mask or the other. Only with the old butler can he be his true self, unmasked, unperformed, simply the person he is. And this is a precious thing, a rare and vital release, the one relationship in which the hero need not pretend. There is a great loneliness in the hero's double life, in the constant deception, the endless performance, the inability ever to be fully known. And the old butler is the one who eases that loneliness, the one before whom the hero can be whole, the one who knows and loves the true self beneath both masks. This is a profound service, perhaps one of the most profound the old butler renders, for it addresses the deepest loneliness of the hero's existence, the loneliness of the unknowable double life, and it offers the one relief the hero has, the one place he can simply be himself. The old butler holds the hero's whole truth, then the public and the private and the secret, and in holding it, he holds the hero together, keeps the fracturing selves united, provides the one still point where the hero is whole. Without the old butler, the hero would be divided entirely into his masks, with no place to be his true self, no one who knows him fully, and the double life would become a kind of prison. With the old butler, the hero has a refuge, a place of wholeness, a relationship in which he is fully known and fully loved. This role as the keeper of both worlds, the one who knows the whole truth and holds the hero together, is one more measure of the old butler's importance, for it addresses a need at the very center of the hero's existence, the need to be known, to be whole, to have one place where the masks come off. The old butler is that place, the keeper of the whole self, and in this too he proves indispensable, the one who holds together a man who might otherwise be torn apart by his own divided life. And there is something moving in the thought of it, the hero coming home to the one person who knows him completely, dropping his masks in the presence of the old man who has known him since he was a child, being, for a few hours, simply himself, fully known and fully loved. It is a rare and precious thing to be fully known and fully loved, and the old butler gives it to the hero, and it is one of the deepest of all his gifts, the gift of being the one before whom the hero can be whole. The old butler was, across the long years, the hero's teacher as well as his father, and much of what is best in the hero, much of his character and his values and his wisdom, he learned from the old man. It was the old butler who taught the grieving boy so many of the lessons that would shape him, who modeled for him a way of meeting the world, who passed on, through word and example, a deep and gentle wisdom that stayed with the hero all his life. Whatever the hero became, much of the goodness in him traces back to what the old butler taught him. He taught the hero about dignity, the old butler, about meeting hardship with composure, about carrying oneself with grace even in the face of suffering. And this lesson stayed with the hero, gave him his own kind of dignity, his own way of enduring. He taught him about service, about the value of caring for others, about the nobility of quiet, unrewarded work. And though the hero expressed these lessons in his own dark way, their root was in the old butler's example. He taught him about resilience, about picking oneself up after a fall, about enduring loss and going on, lessons a grieving boy needed above all. There is one lesson in particular that the old butler is often shown teaching the hero, a lesson about falling and rising again, about the reason we fall being so that we can learn to pick ourselves up. And this simple wisdom became one of the deepest principles of the hero's life, a lesson he returned to again and again in his darkest moments. It is a small piece of wisdom, and yet a profound one, and it captures the old butler's whole gift as a teacher, the way he gave the hero, through simple words and steady example, the strength to endure. The old butler taught, too, by example more than by instruction, for the hero learned from watching the old man, from seeing his dignity and his kindness and his steadfastness, from absorbing across the years the quiet lessons of the old butler's character. Children learn most from those who raise them, from the example set before them day after day, and the hero learned from the old butler the deepest lessons of all, the lessons of character, absorbed not from lectures but from the steady presence of a good man living a good life before his eyes. And the wisdom the old butler passed on was a gentle wisdom, a wisdom of care and dignity and endurance and love, and it tempered the hero's darkness, gave him values beyond his rage, taught him to be more than a creature of vengeance. The hero's mission was born of grief and anger, but the goodness that ran through it, the care for the innocent, the refusal to become a monster, the dignity in suffering, much of that came from the old butler, from the wisdom the old man passed on, and it is part of why the hero became a hero rather than merely an avenger. This role as the teacher, the passer on of wisdom, is one more measure of the old butler's importance, for he shaped not only the hero's survival, but his character, gave him not only a home, but a set of values, taught him not only to endure, but to endure with dignity and care. The hero is, in his character and his values, in no small part the old butler's creation, the fruit of the old man's teaching and example, and this deep shaping of who the hero is one of the old butler's most profound and lasting gifts. And so we come, gently, to the heart of our question, to the reason the old butler was the most important person in the hero's life, and having wandered through all his roles, we can now see the answer whole. He was the father who raised him, the one who took in a broken orphan and gave him a home and a love and a reason to go on. He was the healer who mended his wounds, the one who kept him alive through his dangerous life. He was the conscience who kept his soul, the one who held him back from the darkness. He was the keeper of his humanity, the one who kept him human amid the war. He was the warm heart of his home, the loyal constant, the one who was always there. No one else in the hero's life filled so many roles, or filled them so completely, or across so many years. Others came and went, allies and loved ones and companions, but the old butler was there for all of it, from the night of the murder to the very end, the one unbroken thread of love and care running through the whole of the hero's life. He was the foundation on which everything else rested, the quiet base of the whole towering figure, and without him, none of it. Not the heroism, not the survival, not the humanity would have been possible. The hero had many important people in his life, his allies and his loves and his children, and each of them mattered, each of them was precious, and yet none of them was to him what the old butler was. None of them held the place the old butler held. For the old butler was his father, and one's father is a singular thing, irreplaceable, foundational, the one who made you and raised you and loved you first and longest. And this, the old butler was, to the hero, the father, the foundation, the first and deepest love. There is a way in which the whole of the hero's story is really the old butler's story too. For the hero is, in so many ways, the old butler's creation, the child he raised, the man he shaped, the soul he kept, so that behind the great figure of the hero there stands always the quiet figure of the old man who made him possible. The hero fights the battles and wins the glory, and the old butler, unseen, made it all possible, held it all together. And in this sense, the old butler is not merely a character in the hero's story, but a kind of co-author of it, the quiet hand that shaped the whole. To say that the old butler was the most important person in the hero's life is not to diminish the hero, but to understand him truly, to see that beneath the cape and the cowl and the war, there was a man who was raised and kept and loved by a quiet old servant, a man whose whole existence rested on that quiet love. The greatest heroes are made by someone, held together by someone, loved into being by someone, and for this hero that someone was the old butler, and to see that is to see the hero whole, to understand the love at the root of him. And there is something deeply moving in that, in the recognition that behind the great dark hero there was all along this quiet love, this faithful old man, this father who was not a father, holding the whole thing together with tea and care and hard truths and unwavering devotion. It humanizes the hero, roots him in love, reminds us that even the darkest and most solitary figure was, at bottom, a person who was loved, who was cared for, who was held together by another's devotion, and there is a warmth in that, a tenderness at the very heart of the darkness. So the old butler was the most important person in the hero's life, because he was, quite simply, the one who loved him most completely and mattered to him most deeply, the father and the friend and the healer and the conscience and the keeper of his soul, the one without whom the hero could not have been the hero at all. He was the heart of it, the quiet, loving heart of the whole dark story. And to understand that is to understand the deepest and warmest truth of the whole mythology, the love at the root of the legend. It is worth pausing on why the old butler is so deeply beloved, not only by the hero within the story, but by the millions of people who have followed the mythology across the years. For the affection people feel for him is genuine and profound, out of all proportion to his supporting role. People love the old butler, treasure him, mourn his losses, and this deep affection is itself a testament to how completely the character captures something true and moving, something that reaches past the darkness of the mythology to touch the heart. Part of it is his warmth, the way he brings light and tenderness to a dark world, the way his dry wit and his deep kindness make him a comfort amid the grimness. Part of it is his dignity, the quiet grace with which he carries himself, the composure and the gentleness that make him such a reassuring presence. Part of it is his loyalty, the unwavering faithfulness that speaks to our deepest longing to be loved like that, constantly and completely. And part of it is his role as the caregiver, the way he embodies the quiet love that so many of us have received and perhaps not fully valued. People love the old butler too, because he represents a kind of goodness that is rare and precious, an unglamorous, everyday goodness, the goodness of quiet care and faithful service and steady love. And in a world that often celebrates flashier virtues, there is something deeply moving in this quiet goodness, this humble heroism of care. The old butler is good in the truest and least showy way, and people recognize and treasure that goodness, love him for it, hold him up as an example of what quiet devotion can be. There is a comfort in the old butler, a reassurance, the sense of a steady, loving presence that will always be there, and people love him for that comfort, for the way he makes the dark world of the mythology feel a little warmer, a little safer, a little more human. He is the warm hearth in the cold house, the light in the window, the one who waits up and cares and loves, and there is a deep comfort in his presence that draws people to him, makes them love him, makes them treasure every moment he is on the page or the screen. And people love the old butler because, in loving him, they honor the quiet caregivers in their own lives, the ones who cared for them without recognition, the parents and the grandparents, and the loving presences who held them together. The old butler speaks to something universal, to the experience of being loved and cared for by someone quiet and faithful, and in cherishing him people cherish that experience, that love, and this connection to something deeply personal is a large part of why the old butler is so beloved. His place in the mythology is secure then, not as a mere supporting character, but as one of its most treasured figures, beloved out of all proportion to his role, cherished for his warmth and his dignity and his loyalty and his love. He has become one of the most beloved characters in all of the mythology, and this deep and lasting affection is a testament to how completely he captures the heart, how truly he embodies the quiet love that holds the world together, how essential he is not only to the hero, but to all who have come to love him. There is a deep humility in the old butler that is worth dwelling on, for it is central to who he is and to why his love is so pure. He never seeks recognition, never asks for thanks, never wants the spotlight or the glory, but does his quiet work simply because it needs doing, because he loves the hero, because it is right, content to remain in the background, unseen and unsung. This humility is a rare and beautiful thing, the willingness to give so much and ask so little, to love without reward, to serve without recognition, and it is one of the truest marks of the old butler's character. He could, if he wished, resent his position, could chafe at being the servant while the hero gets the glory, could demand more recognition for all he does, and yet he never does, never seems to want anything more than to serve, to care, to love. His satisfaction comes not from recognition, but from the work itself, from the caring, from the love he gives, and this is a mark of a truly generous heart, one that gives for the joy of giving rather than for any reward, that loves for the sake of love rather than for thanks. There is a wisdom in this humility too, an understanding that the truest and most important work is often the quietest, the least recognized, and that recognition is not the measure of worth. The old butler knows that what he does matters, whether or not anyone sees it, whether or not anyone thanks him, and he does it faithfully regardless, secure in the quiet knowledge that his love and his care are essential, even if unseen. This is a deep and mature kind of goodness, the goodness that does not need to be seen to be real. And there is something moving in the old butler's contentment with his quiet role, in the way he seems genuinely happy to serve, to care, to love from the background, without any hunger for more. He has found, it seems, a real fulfillment in his quiet devotion, a genuine joy in the loving and the caring, and this contentment, this peace with his humble role, is itself a kind of wisdom, a lesson in where true fulfillment lies, not in recognition or glory, but in love faithfully given. His humility makes his love all the purer, for a love that asks nothing in return, that seeks no reward, no recognition, no glory, is love in its purest form, love for its own sake. And this is the love the old butler gives, freely and fully, asking nothing. It is a rare and precious kind of love, and it is part of what makes the old butler so moving, so beloved, the purity of a devotion that gives everything and asks nothing, that loves simply for the sake of loving. And this humility is part of why his importance is so easily overlooked. For he never draws attention to himself, never announces his own importance, never claims the credit he deserves, but remains quietly in the background, doing his essential work unseen. It takes a careful eye to notice how much the old butler does, how essential he is, precisely because he is so humble, so content to remain unseen, and there is something fitting in that, in the way the most important person in the hero's life is also the most humble, the quietest, the least likely to claim his own importance. It is a beautiful thing, this humility, and it makes the old butler not only important but genuinely good, genuinely admirable, a model of quiet, selfless love. He gives everything and asks nothing, loves without reward, serves without recognition, and finds his fulfillment simply in the caring. And there are few more admirable things than that, few purer expressions of love, and it is one more reason the old butler stands as the true heart of the whole story, the humble, loving, essential center of it all. There is a beautiful thread in the old butler's story concerning the hero's lost parents. For the old butler served them too, knew them, loved them, and after their deaths he became, in a sense, the keeper of their memory and the carrier of their legacy, raising their son as they would have wished. When the parents were killed, it fell to the old butler to raise their orphaned child, and he did so with their memory always before him, trying to raise the boy as they would have wanted, to give him the love they would have given, to be for him what they could no longer be. In this, the old butler became a bridge between the lost parents and the grieving son, the living link to the family that had been destroyed, the one who could tell the boy about his parents, who could keep their memory alive, who could carry forward the love and the values they would have passed on. He was the last connection to the family the boy had lost, and in raising the boy he honored the parents, kept faith with them, gave their son the upbringing they would have wished, a sacred trust fulfilled across the long years. There is a quiet nobility in this, in the way the old butler took up the task the murdered parents could no longer perform, in the way he raised their son in their memory and in their spirit, keeping faith with the dead by loving the living. He carried the parents' legacy not as a burden, but as a sacred duty and a labor of love, honoring them in every meal he cooked and every wound he tended and every lesson he taught, so that the parents, though gone, lived on in the way their son was raised. And the old butler kept the parents' memory alive for the son too, telling him about them, reminding him of who they were, keeping them present in the boy's life even after death. For a child who lost his parents so young, this was a precious gift. The old butler's memories of them, his stories, his ability to keep the parents real and present, so that the boy did not lose them entirely but kept them, through the old butler, as a living presence in his life. The old butler was the keeper of the parents' memory, the one who kept them alive for their son. There is something deeply moving in the thought of the old butler taking up the fallen parents' task, raising their son in their memory, keeping faith with the dead through his love for the living, and it adds another layer to his importance, for he was not only the boy's guardian, but the carrier of his lost family's legacy, the keeper of the flame. In raising the hero, the old butler completed the work the parents had begun and could not finish, gave their son the love they would have given, and in this he honored them, served them, kept faith with them across the years. And it means that the old butler's love for the hero was bound up with his love for the parents, that in caring for the son he cared also for the memory of the mother and father he had served, so that his devotion carried the weight of a whole family's love, the living love of the old butler and the remembered love of the lost parents together. The hero was raised, in a sense, by all three of them, by the old butler carrying forward the love of the parents, and there is a beauty in that, in the way the old butler's love wove together the living and the dead in the raising of the child. It is one more measure of the old butler's importance, this role as the keeper of the parents' legacy, the carrier of their love, the bridge between the lost family and the grieving son. He gave the hero not only his own love, but the continued love of the parents, kept alive through him, and in this he was doubly essential, doubly a father, the living guardian who carried forward the love of the dead, the keeper of a whole family's devotion, faithfully passed on to the child they had all loved. There is a role the old butler plays for us, the audience, that is worth noticing, for he is in many ways our way into the hero's heart, the one through whom we come to understand and to love the difficult, distant, often frightening figure at the center of the story. The hero can be hard to know, hard to warm to, closed off behind his mask and his mission, and it is through the old butler, through the old man's love for him, and worry over him, and gentle exasperation with him, that we come to see the human being beneath, to care for him, to love him. When we see how much the old butler loves the hero, we understand that the hero is worth loving. When we see the old butler's worry, we feel the danger the hero is in. When we see the old butler's grief, we grasp the cost of the hero's choices. The old butler's feelings guide our own, teach us how to feel about the hero, open our hearts to a figure who might otherwise remain closed to us, and in this he is a kind of bridge between the audience and the hero, our way in, our guide to the heart of the story. Through the old butler's eyes we see the hero not as a fearsome symbol, but as a beloved son, a person, a human being with a good heart beneath his hard exterior. And this vision, the old butler's loving vision of the hero, becomes our vision too. We learn to see the hero as the old butler sees him, with love and worry and hope, and this transforms our understanding, lets us love a figure we might otherwise only fear, opens the hero's guarded heart to us through the love of the one who knows him best. This is a subtle but important role, for a hero we cannot love is a hero we cannot truly follow, and the old butler is a large part of how we come to love the hero, how we come to care about his fate, how we come to feel the emotional weight of his story. Without the old butler's loving presence, the hero might remain too distant, too cold, too closed off for us to fully embrace, and it is the old butler, more than anyone, who humanizes him for us, who opens our hearts to him, who makes us care. There is a lovely truth in this, that the character who loves the hero most within the story is also the one who teaches us to love him, so that the old butler's love reaches out beyond the story to shape our own feelings, drawing us into the emotional heart of the mythology. He loves the hero, and through his love we learn to love the hero too. And in this, the old butler serves not only the hero but us, the audience, becoming our guide, our bridge, our way into the warm heart of a cold story. And this deepens still further our sense of his importance, for he is essential not only to the hero within the story, but to our own relationship with the story, the one through whom we come to care, to love, to feel. The whole emotional power of the mythology, its ability to move us, to make us care about its dark and distant hero, rests in no small part on the old butler, on his love and his warmth and his humanity, which reach out and draw us in, and open our hearts to the beloved figure at the center of it all. So the old butler is important to us too, as well as to the hero, our way into the story's heart, our guide to loving its hero, the warm presence through whom the whole cold mythology becomes something we can love. And there is a beauty in that, in a character whose love is so real and so powerful that it reaches beyond the story to shape our own hearts, teaching us, through his example, how to love the difficult and the distant, how to see the human being beneath the mask, how to open our hearts to the beloved. It is worth pausing, too, on what the old butler gave up to devote himself so completely to the hero, on the life he set aside, the happiness he perhaps forewent, in order to spend his years in quiet service and love. For a man of his capability and his depth might have had a great many other lives, might have pursued his own ambitions, his own family, his own happiness, and instead he chose to give his years to the raising of another's child and the keeping of another's house, a choice that surely cost him something, that surely meant setting aside dreams of his own. In some tellings, the old butler did have family of his own, a child, relations, a life beyond the manor, and yet he gave the greater part of his devotion to the hero, chose again and again to remain at the hero's side, to put the hero's needs before his own, so that his own life and his own relationships were in a sense sacrificed to his devotion. There is a real cost in this, a real sacrifice, the setting aside of one's own life for the sake of another's, and the old butler bore that cost willingly, giving his years to the hero without complaint. He set aside, too, whatever peace and safety an ordinary life might have offered, choosing instead a life of danger and worry, tending the wounds of a war, waiting up in fear night after night, living always with the terror of losing the boy he loved. It would have been easier, safer, more peaceful to leave, to seek an ordinary life away from the danger and the darkness, and the old butler chose to stay, to bear the fear and the worry, to give his peace of mind for the sake of his love, and there is a real sacrifice in that, a real cost willingly paid. And he set aside, perhaps, his own grief and his own needs, for a man who gives himself so completely to another often has little room left for himself. And the old butler poured so much into the hero that his own life, his own feelings, his own needs must often have gone untended. He was always the one caring for others, always the one giving, and there is a poignancy in the thought that the great caregiver may himself have gone uncared for, that the one who tended everyone may have had no one to tend him, giving and giving without receiving the same care in return. There is a quiet heroism in these sacrifices, in the life the old butler set aside, the happiness he forewent, the peace he gave up, all for the sake of his love and his devotion. He gave his years, his safety, his peace of mind, perhaps his own dreams and his own needs, all poured into the service of the hero and the keeping of the home. And this total giving, this complete devotion, is one of the most moving things about him, the measure of a love that held nothing back, that gave everything. And it deepens our sense of his importance and his love, for it means that his devotion was not easy, not costless, but a genuine sacrifice, a giving up of his own life for the sake of another's. And there is nothing more moving than that, than a love willing to sacrifice everything. The old butler gave his whole life to the hero, set aside everything else, asked nothing in return, and there is a profound nobility in that, in a life so completely given over to love and service, a life poured out for the sake of another. It is this, finally, that makes his love so complete and his importance so total, that he held nothing back, gave everything, set aside his own life entirely for the sake of the hero. He was the most important person in the hero's life because he made the hero the most important thing in his own, gave himself completely, sacrificed everything, loved without reservation and without reward. And there is no greater love than that, no deeper devotion, no more complete a giving of oneself for the sake of another. At the very center of the bond between the old butler and the hero, there lies a total and absolute trust, a trust so complete that it is perhaps unmatched by any other relationship in the hero's life. And this trust is one of the deepest measures of what the old butler meant to him. The hero, a man who trusts almost no one, who guards his secrets so fiercely, who keeps even his closest allies at a careful distance, trusts the old butler completely, without reservation, with everything, his secrets and his life and his very soul. This complete trust is a remarkable thing, for the hero is by nature suspicious, guarded, slow to trust, having learned through hard experience the dangers of trusting too freely, and yet, with the old butler, all of that falls away, and he trusts absolutely. He trusts the old butler with his greatest secret, his true identity. He trusts him with his broken body, lying still beneath his hands. He trusts him with his darkest thoughts and his deepest fears. He trusts him in the end with everything, holding nothing back from the one person he trusts without limit. This trust was earned across a lifetime, built up through years of faithful service and unwavering loyalty and proven love, so that by the time the hero was grown, the old butler had earned a trust so complete it could never be shaken. The old butler had been there for everything, had never betrayed the hero, had proven himself faithful 10,000 times, and out of that long history of faithfulness grew a trust as deep and as solid as bedrock, the one absolute trust in the hero's guarded life. And the trust ran both ways, for the old butler trusted the hero too, trusted his judgment, trusted his goodness, trusted the man he had raised even when he disagreed with his choices. And this mutual trust, this two-way faith, was the foundation of the whole relationship. They trusted each other completely, the old butler and the hero, and this complete mutual trust is one of the rarest and most precious things two people can share, the foundation of the deepest kind of bond. There is a profound intimacy in such trust, in the ability to be completely open with another, to hold nothing back, to trust absolutely, and this intimacy was something the hero had with no one else, something only the old butler gave him. To be trusted so completely, and to trust so completely in return, is a rare gift, and it was a gift the old butler and the hero shared. The gift of an absolute mutual trust, the deepest foundation of their extraordinary bond. This total trust is one more reason the old butler was the most important person in the hero's life, for he was the one the hero could trust with everything, the one before whom he need not be guarded, the one whose faithfulness had earned an absolute and unshakable trust. In a life of secrets and suspicion and careful distance, the old butler was the one place of complete openness, complete trust, complete faith, and this was a precious and irreplaceable thing, the foundation of the hero's one truly open relationship. And there is a deep comfort in the thought of such trust, in the idea of a bond so complete that nothing need be hidden, nothing guarded, nothing held back, a relationship of total openness and total faith. It is something we all long for, to trust and be trusted so completely, to have one person before whom we can be entirely ourselves, and the old butler and the hero had it, and it is one of the most beautiful things about their bond, this absolute trust, the deepest foundation of the deepest love. Let us picture the old butler now, quietly, at the end of an ordinary evening, the way you might hold a peaceful scene in your mind as sleep draws near. The great house is quiet, the hero not yet home, and the old man moves slowly through the familiar rooms, turning down the lamps, tidying the last small things, setting the kettle to boil against the hero's return. There is a warmth in the kitchen, a soft light in the window, the small comforts of a home kept with love, and the old butler moves through it all with the ease of long habit, the calm of a man doing the quiet work he has done for so many years, the work of loving and tending and waiting up. He pauses, perhaps, by the window and looks out into the dark city where the hero is somewhere at his dangerous work, and there is worry in his face, and love, the eternal worry and love of the parent for the child who has gone out into the night. And then he returns to his quiet tasks, the tea and the tidying and the small preparations, keeping the home warm and ready, keeping the light burning, waiting, as he has waited 10,000 nights, for the tired and wounded young man to come home, so that he can bind the wounds and pour the tea and be, once more, the quiet, faithful presence that holds the whole thing together. It is a peaceful image, this, the old butler at his quiet evening work, the warm house, the soft light, the kettle and the waiting, and there is a deep comfort in it, the comfort of a home kept with love, of a faithful presence tending the quiet rituals of care. And it is a lovely thing to picture as you drift towards sleep, the old man in the warm house, the light in the window, the gentle rhythm of his evening, all of it soft and warm and safe, the very picture of quiet love at the end of the day. And as we come to the end of our long wander through the story of the old butler, it is worth resting for a moment on why his story should be such a soothing thing to drift towards sleep upon. Part of it, surely, is the warmth of it, For beneath all the darkness of the hero's world, the story of the old butler is a story of love, of care, of quiet devotion, and there is something deeply comforting in spending the last hour of the day in the company of such gentle love. It is a warm story at the heart of a dark one, and warmth is a fine thing to carry down into sleep. And part of it is the reassurance of the old butler himself, the sense of a steady, loving presence that is always there, always waiting, always ready with the tea and the care and the love, for there is a deep comfort in the thought of such a presence, in the idea of being loved and cared for and watched over, in the image of the light left burning in the window against one's return. It speaks to something we all long for, the longing to be cared for like that, to have someone waiting up, someone who keeps the light burning, and there is a gentle comfort in resting in that longing as sleep draws near. And part of it, perhaps, is the quiet lesson of the old butler, the reminder of the value of gentle love and faithful care, of the quiet ones who hold us together, and the encouragement to notice and to treasure them. It is a warm and hopeful thought that the most important person in a life might be not the flashy hero, but the quiet caregiver, that quiet love might be the truest heroism of all, and there are few gentler things to carry towards sleep than that. The thought of the quiet love that holds the world together, the faithful care that makes everything possible. So let all of it settle over you now, softly, the whole warm story of the old butler, and let it grow quiet and begin to fade. Let it drift over you one last time, the light in the window of the great house, the old man moving quietly through the familiar rooms, the kettle set to boil, the tea and the care and the waiting up, the quiet, faithful love at the heart of the whole dark story. Let the images grow dim and gentle and soft at their edges, no longer quite pictures now, but only a warm, kind, formless drift, slow and easy and safe, dissolving gently into the quiet, into the warmth, into the soft and steady rhythm of your own easy breathing. There is no one to wait up for tonight, no light to leave burning in the window, and no wound to bind, no watch to keep in the great quiet house. You have wandered a long way into the story of the old butler and the hero he raised, into the light in the window and the depth beneath the propriety, and there is nothing more you need to carry now, and nothing at all you must stay awake to hear. It is all told, and you may let it go. Let it all drift over you softly now, the warm lamp in the window of the old house on the hill, the quiet halls, the kettle set gently to boil, the old man moving slowly and calmly through the rooms he has kept for so many years. Let the images grow dim and gentle and soft at their edges, the way the world does in the last moments before sleep, until they are no longer quite pictures at all, but only a warm grey drift, kind and formless and slow. None of it is real, and none of it can trouble you. The old butler can keep his gentle watch over the great dark house without any help from you tonight, and all his long story can wait, quietly, until you wish to return to it, and you may set the whole of it gently down, and rest. There is nothing to tend here, and nothing to fear, and nothing to do but let your body grow heavy, and your thoughts grow soft, and the last of the day drains slowly away. You do not have to wait up for anyone tonight, and you do not have to tend anything, and you do not have to carry a single one of the day's small cares down into sleep with you. The long day is over now, every last piece of it, and you carried it well, and there is nothing left of it to mend or to finish. Only the soft dark closing gently around you like a warm blanket drawn up in a quiet house, kind and safe and yours. Let each slow breath carry you a little further down, past the last of the day's small worries, past the light in the window and the warm, quiet halls, down into the quiet, down into the warmth, down toward the deep and easy rest that is waiting for you now. Let the great house grow still and quiet, the lamps turned low, the kettle gone cold, the old man himself settling at last into his own well-earned rest, his long day's tending done. Let the light in the window burn soft and low, and then gently go out, and let the whole warm house sink into the deep quiet of the night, and let yourself sink along with it, safe and warm beneath the blankets, breathing slow, drifting down, letting go. There is nowhere you need to be, and nothing you need to tend, and no one you need to wait up for, and nothing at all you must do now but rest, held gently by the quiet, as the old butler was always held by the love he gave and received, safe and warm and home at the end of the day. Rest now, you have earned this quiet too. Let the far house and its warm window fade into the ordinary, gentle dark of your own room, soft and kind, and yours to sleep in. And there is nothing at all you need to do until morning, but lie still in the warmth, and breathe, and drift, and rest. The whole warm story of the old butler will keep safe and complete until you wake, all his love and his care and his quiet devotion waiting gently for whenever you wish to return, and there is no hurry now, and nowhere else to be, only here, only this, only the soft dark, and your own slow breathing carrying you gently down. And if it is a comfort, you might carry with you into sleep the thought of that faithful old man and his quiet love. The light left burning in the window, the tea kept warm, the watch kept out of love, a small warm reminder that in even the darkest of stories there is, at the heart of it, someone who waits up and cares and loves. Sleep well now, and let the gentle dark carry you softly down, all the way down, toward the quiet light of morning. Good night.